I've had a couple of weeks to work with the new Photoshop Beta 25.9, which contains a whopping 7 new features in all. So many that I've taken the time to star rate each one. And be sure to watch to the end, because the last one's my favorite. Feature number 1 inside Photoshop Beta 25.9 is selection-based generative fill. Now, you may take issue. You may say, Deke, are you talking about that thing where you select a region and then you apply generative fill? Because that's been with us for almost exactly a year, buddy, which is true. But previously, Photoshop was relying on Firefly Model 1. Now it's skipped a version and it's using Firefly Model 3. And so here we are looking at an actual photograph of some tulips from the Dreamtime image library. Link in the description. Here's the prompt I'm going to be using here. I'll just go ahead and select it and copy it to the clipboard. So, happy, joyful zebra sitting and eating an ice cream cone. Now, just so that we're comparing apples to apples, I went ahead and did this already inside the shipping version of Photoshop, which happens to be 25.7, and I got this result right here. So, I didn't want to do it just once and go, ha ha ha, it's so awful. It used to be a miracle, right? And now it's just amazing that we are so savvy these days that we think that is just the worst plaster cast thing ever. And so I'll just advance through a few more. This guy's got the ice cream cone smashed in his face, so that's, half the battle. This guy doesn't even make any sense. I have no idea what facial hair growth he's got or what the leg is doing. And yeah, he's adorable. Of no use to us, I don't think. This guy is perhaps the most successful where eating the ice cream cone is concerned. He's horrifying, but he is really chowing down on that weird kind of 8-ball of an ice cream cone. And then we have this dude right here who's got the ice cream cone coming out the wrong side. So what I'm going to do in front of you for the first time, in other words, I'm going to do it fresh, is I'm going to select that same region. So I saved it in advance just so, again, apples to apples. I'll turn off that zebra. I'll click on generative fill and I'll paste in that prompt and click generate. And once again, Photoshop is live communicating, so you need an active internet connection with Firefly, but this time it's taking advantage of the much improved Model 3, and we end up with this guy right here. I mean, how much more joyful could he be? He looks like he's kicking back and enjoying a cup of coffee, but let's try the, oh, now that is a zebra eating an ice cream cone, or what's left of it. Anyway, he must have consumed a lot, and this guy has got an ice cream cone as well. And then if you were thinking, what'd be really great is if we got rid of this kind of cartoony feel here. So let's just add the word photographic in there, kind of in the middle of things, and see what it is Photoshop comes up with this time. And let's hope it's something better. Actually, look, it is. Well, no ice cream cone. That's okay. He's joyful, though. He's a credible zebra. This guy's less credible, perhaps, and this guy's just hanging out and enjoying life. I want to show you something here. I'm going to zoom in for a second to 100% because I want you to see that the resolution may still suffer. So if you're asking for more than about a megapixel, you may start seeing some jagged transitions. This is no better or no worse than what we had with Model 1. So the resolution is not necessarily improved. It's just flat out the image quality. And so I was telling you, I'm going to star rate these guys. And so call me generous, but given how far this feature has come, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. The second new feature in Photoshop Beta 25.9 is Enhanced Detail, which is specifically applicable to the results of selection-based generative fill. And so you may notice that I've gone ahead and switched out my zebra for this guy who's more in keeping with my prompt, but he's not perfect. You may be able to see even here at 100% view size that we've got some jagged transitions. But tell you what, I'll go ahead and zoom in so you can see this obvious stair-stepping, these color aberrations here in the tightly packed stripes, what looks like, for all the world, JPEG compression artifacts, these sort of gummy, noisy details that are all over the place, as well as these narrow halos around the white and dark stripes. And that's because even though Firefly Model 3 undeniably provides better results than we've seen in the past, they are not necessarily higher resolution. resolution. If you want that, then select a generative fill layer here inside the layers panel, switch to the sparkles in the properties panel, scroll down so you can see the thumbnails, and then click on this icon right here, enhance detail, which is once again going to reference Firefly. It is not necessarily very speedy. As you can see right here, we do get a progress bar, but once it completes, you will see much smoother, sharper results. Note the difference. This is before. Positively gummy details, once again, sort of out of focus as well. And this is after higher resolution results. Now, I do want to say, you're going to really see the difference when working in a high resolution image in the first place. If you're working at low resolution, you'll barely see any difference at all. Also notice here in the properties panel that you can apply the enhanced feature once and only once, although you can apply it to the other variations if you like. Which is why I say, even though enhanced detail is a little bit pokey, it is a very welcome addition that I'm willing to give 3.5 stars. At new feature number 3, we have Generate Similar, which I will give you is easy to use. Just make sure that you have a generative layer selected inside the layers panel. Then drop down to the contextual taskbar, click on the triple dot on the right hand side and choose Generate Similar. At which point Photoshop Beta will resume its conversation with Firefly. But what do you expect from this feature? Not just to follow the prompt once again, but we'd like a zebra that looks like this one, facing left, eating an ice cream cone, one would suppose. Instead, we get a zebra facing the other direction, not eating an ice cream cone, not matching its environment worth beans. And then we have these other ones that are just like kind of electric looking or something like that, which is why I think I'm being a little bit overly generous giving this feature 2 stars. Hey, real quick, you know all that new AI stuff in Photoshop Beta? Well, it's even better in Adobe Firefly. Curious? Then join my Patreon, which is patreon.com/geeknow. And now, back to Photoshop Beta 25.9. Moving right along to new feature number 4, we have Generative Fill from Reference Image. So the idea is, as opposed to basing your Generative Fill on the shape of a selection outline or on a text prompt, you can base it on a fellow image instead. And so what I want to do is take this forward balloon right here and Generative Fill it using this fish. And I'm not sure, of course, I'm not sure what to expect, but it's gonna be a lot of fun, I figure. And so the first step is to select the balloon. Now, Photoshop's documentation, such as it is so far, recommends that you use the lasso tool. In fact, you can use any selection tool you like. So I'm just going to drag around this balloon, once again from the Dreamstime library, in order to select it. I don't want to select this kind of edge thing at the bottom, so I'll press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac and drag around it so that I have just the balloon selected like so. Next, you want to click Generative Fill just like you normally would here in the taskbar, and then instead of entering a prompt, you want to click on this new icon right here that says Edit Your Reference Image. It's not really about editing it, it's about uploading it. So you got to choose the image, and in my case, I'll grab Fish on White right here. You just want to make sure your reference image has a lot of contrast. And now it's in Adobe's hands, right? You've uploaded it to Adobe, for better or for worse. You can experiment with entering a text prompt, but I'm just going to click Generate. And once again, Photoshop Beta is communicating with Firefly. And a moment later, we've got some kind of fish pattern. Now, this one's really interesting because it's mutated the shape of the balloon, but that's not necessarily going to be the way it is for the other variations. This one is a little bit more of what I would expect. Now, if you don't like any of them, of course, you could just go ahead and click on Generate once again. I want you to notice here in the Properties panel, we can see a tiny preview of that reference image, and you always have the option next time around of changing out the image if you like. But in this case, we've got something new. That's very cool. That's interesting, I suppose, and that's probably the most successful of the bunch. Now, don't get me wrong, I think this feature is really cool, actually, but I think it's a little bit of a curiosity for now, which is why I'm going to give it 3 stars. Next, we have feature number 5, Generate Background, which is going to use AI, of course, to generate a new background. I'll be honest with you, I do not care for this feature, but I'm going to show it to you anyway so you can make your own assessment. Now notice that I've revised my fish balloon canvas right here so that it's going to work out better, believe me, but you may be surprised because this is a very rough mask indeed. I could have worked a little harder on it, but I'm telling you guys, those of you people who are sticklers for fine compositing, don't even bother with this feature. But I'm going to select the background with all the balloons right here. Now, you should be able to use any masking technique you want, right, in order to get rid of the current background, the sky, and replace it. Should be pretty easy, actually, right? But you can't. There's only one way to approach this feature, and that's with remove background. You can't even use select subject and create a mask. But not that I've discovered. As things stand right now, you have to click, get out of my way. You have to click on remove background. And that works very quickly in the case of this image, but it also murders the image. This is before. We had a couple of other balloons here and there. Do you notice that? Now they're all gone, and we've lost some baskets as well. So that's the way we have to start this process, and now we have generate background. Otherwise, you don't get this button. And so now I'll click generate background, and I'm going to paste a prompt. Let's see if you can read the whole thing here. It's the wonders and the perils of the very deep blue underwater ocean. And I had to say stuff like underwater and deep blue because otherwise it keeps giving me these surface backgrounds where I'm above the surface of the water. That's what I found when I was testing it. And you might notice that's what's happened this time as well. Very nice. Did I ask for fog? No, I did not. But anyway, let's see what else it came up with. I should be underwater. This is underwater. The Photoshop beta 25.9. You've never been underwater, obviously. But anyway, we're back above and below the water. Just let's try it again. All right, so obviously this just isn't getting any better. It is generating new baskets, by the way. I want you to see that. It's not generating new balloons. Well, I guess that's not what I asked for, but I guess it's my favorite, actually. That's just vague. And so this has got some detail, right? We're kind of both above and under the surface of the water, so that's kind of wild. But you'd expect this, right? You would. It's low res. And that's because it's trying to fill in a ton of area, and it's limited to 1 to 4 megabytes. I think 1 to 4 megapixels is what I meant. I think it's actually 2. And after that, it upsamples, but as a result, we get some pretty garbagey stuff. And so there's a billion other ways to work, right? Just find a good image and put it in the background. It's a better way. But I want to show you this because this is pretty cool. We'll start with this one. Right there, we've got enhanced detail. So that is something, which means I can enhance what I'm seeing right now by having Photoshop Beta, again, re-communicate with Firefly. Now, the bad news is it does take its sweet time. The good news is it does deliver ever so slightly improved detail. So this is before. Oh my goodness, this isn't really that great of news. And this is after. And that took like 2 minutes to pull off too. And do you see the edges, my dear friends? No way would you accept those edges, but they are what we get with remove background. Now it gets ever so slightly worse. I just want to show you one little additional detail here. I'll Alt or Option click on the eye in front of this new background here. It doesn't generate a mask. It doesn't create a layer mask. It creates holes in this version of a smart object layer that you can't actually fix. And so that's what you're kind of stuck with, is this thing right here, which is why I'm going to give this one my lowest rating so far, 1.5 stars. When I said so far just now, did I sound ominous? Well, anyway, welcome to feature number 6, the only new feature in Photoshop Beta 25.9 that doesn't involve generative anything or AI. It's designed by actual people, and the idea is you can brush in adjustment layers. Now, just for a moment, we've been able to do this for 30 years. We've had adjustment layers for that long inside Photoshop, and you could brush them from absolutely day one. So this is a feature that does not do anything new. Now, I get it. It's for new users. It's not supposed to do something new. It's supposed to appeal to people who are new. Okay, so here we go. New user, follow me, please. First of all, go to the brush tool and discover the adjustment brush. You do that, right? Yeah, of course you would. And you know what an adjustment brush would do. It painted an adjustment layer that you've never ever heard of. Now, up here in the options bar, the adjustment is set by default to brightness contrast. Okay, well, whatever that is. Anyway, my brush is too tiny. I want to brush this pair and make it brighter. Let's say I'm in luck because that's what this is going to do. But I need a bigger brush. And I don't know about the bracket key tricks because I'm new to the software. So I will increase the size of my brush to 448 pixels. I have no idea. Sure. And now I'll brush in my pair and it's getting brighter. Oh, great. Okay, so I'm done. Or I'm kind of curious what in the world's going on. So makes sense after having gone to the left side of the screen, then to the top of the screen, it would now make sense to go to the right-hand side of the screen and discover the properties panel where I would see brightness and contrast both cranked up to 50 as by default, because that's just what they're going to do. It's by default where this tool is concerned. It's not evaluating the pair or making any smart decisions. It's just going, that's what you get. Now I'm thinking, wait a second, I want to make my pair red. And I have a friend who told me I do that using a hue saturation layer. I'm already making the biggest leap conceivable, but let's say that I'm thinking, yeah, that's the way to go. So I would go up here to the options bar, right? Because the adjustment is set to brightness contrast, and I would now set it to hue saturation. Now, if I'm really brilliant, insofar as new users go, just like mind leaping ahead, just like I just suddenly get one of the most complicated pieces of software on the face of the planet, I would look at the layers panel for a moment and notice that I created a new brightness contrast layer. Okay, cool. I still am seeing brightness contrast even though I switched to hue saturation, and I'll go ahead and brush some more in the pair. And I just made a new hue saturation layer because that's what I asked for. That's not really what I wanted, but it increased ever so slightly the saturation of the pair. A lot, actually, by plus 30, but that's not making any difference because the pair is already maxed out. I would never know that as a new user, but there it is. Anyway, so I'm going to undo because I know that's not the right thing to do. Somehow I know that. I just have this feeling. So I'm going to undo that. And as opposed to using any of the the 4 panels I've checked out so far, tools, options bar, properties, and layers, I think to myself, there's got to be a 5th panel. That's always the way it is, right? I'll just go ahead and drop down here to the taskbar. Because I know that's a friendly panel, right? It jumps all over the screen, and I'll just go ahead and change it, and often doesn't even come up when you need it, and I'll change it to hue saturation. That actually changed the content of the properties panel. I changed that layer from, notice it, this was a moment ago, it's a brightness contrast layer, and now it's a hue saturation layer, because when you change it down here in the taskbar, it does something different than it does up here in the options bar. I knew that would happen because I'm new to the software. And so I'm going to change the hue value because my buddy, I dimly recollect, this person told me to change the hue value in order to make my pair red, which is what I want because I want it to look really super juicy or something I don't even know at this point. Now, notice I have this brush that says plus. All right, so I'll brush it in, and that adds more redness to the pair. Okay, fine. That made sense. Actually, I'm going to be real for a second. That actually made sense. Now, look at the foreground color down here at the bottom of the toolbox. Those of you who know a thing or two about the software, if I switch to the minus brush, it's white. Changes to minus brush, it changes to black because it's a mask. Because I'm brushing in a mask now. I know that. I've got a layer mask. I can see that because I'm new. Because I'm the world's most brilliant new user on the face of the planet. Now I'm going to switch back to plus. But even though I have to say now, and I'm going to admit something that maybe I shouldn't, even though I've been using this software since version 1, I am totally confused by what I'm doing. Now, I just know at some point there's somebody out there who's thinking, Deke, you are mean. You are actually a very mean person. Ha! I'm so mean. I get it, right? Because this is a tool that was actually designed by human beings, right? But they forgot something. They forgot that this is a piece of software that's also supposed to be used by human beings. And so, adjustment brush, no star. And now for the seventh and final new feature in Photoshop Beta 25.9. It goes by the prosaic name Generate Image, but it allows you to generate an image from whole cloth, from a text prompt, nothing more. So you don't need a selection outline. It's not going to pay attention to the rest of the composition. It's like you have a little AI factory built into Photoshop. I'm a big fan of this feature, so much so that I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. Now, you may not care, but I just, by way of advice to you, I think it's great. You may disagree. It could be, I'm saving back a 0.5 star because obviously we will expect better results in the future. And of course, more resolution is what we need. But still, it's amazing we can get stuff like this based on this text prompt, by the way. So I just want you to know what the prompt is from one example to the next. It's flying electric car with retro fins in a modern city made of colorful candy and marshmallows. So there you have it. If I were to take this same prompt and do a Command A in what is ostensibly the shipping version of Photoshop 25.7 as I record this, and run generate, then I would end up with something along these lines right here. Isn't that just absolutely adorable? This guy in particular. And even though a year ago we thought this was an absolute miracle, and many of us were worried that we'd lose our jobs and all that stuff, that hasn't happened. Still, if you look at it now, it's garbage, right? It just doesn't hold up. Whereas nowadays, it's gotten better and better, as you're about to see. So here's some examples from Photoshop Beta 25.9, once again, just to give you a sense of what it can pull off. It's just so incredibly awesome. So what do? Well, you start with a blank document. There's no reason not to have a blank document. You just might as well work blank. If it's a new document, you'll see Generate Image down here in the taskbar. I'm not, because I've got some other stuff going on. But if you can't find it, then go to the Edit menu and choose Generate Image. Or Adobe is definitely anxious for you to discover this feature. We've got a new icon down here at the bottom of the toolbox. I think that's a little bit of overkill, but here it is. Just click on it. And now if you're searching for inspiration, you got all these thumbnails to try out right here. But I'm going to paste in that prompt I was telling you about. That's it. And then I'm going to click Generate. So notice there is no selection outline. There is no composition to riff off of here. We're just working from the prompt and nothing more. And I end up with this, which I think is pretty darn great. And here's another example. Cool. And how about this one right here? That's awesome. So let's say I like this one the best. Well, it's kind of washed out a little bit, don't you think? Could you use some more heft? And so notice here inside the layers panel that the thumbnail right here has these sparkles in the bottom right corner, and that indicates that it's a special variety of smart object, meaning that you can apply editable smart filters as well as smart adjustments, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up to the image menu, choose adjustments, and choose levels. This will be a virtual adjustment, by the way, that is editable. And I'm going to take down the gamma value to 0.8, let's say, so that we have more heft. And now you'll see that we have this smart adjustment here in the layers panel. I can turn it off if I want to, turn it back on. I could edit it, or I could return to the image menu, choose adjustments, and choose vibrance. And then I could just crank up that vibrance value and then tab to the saturation value and take it up too. That's a lot of saturation. So let's take it down a little bit. No, you know what? I liked it over the top. Let's leave it high and click OK. And now you could edit that one as well if you're so inclined. But that's just the beginning. Obviously, you can continue to generate. You can change the prompt, what have you. We've got this icon right here. Notice that in the taskbar. Edit your style effects. So go ahead and do it. And right now, I don't have any style effects. I could say, you know what? I want art as opposed to photo, or as opposed to neutral, the way it is now. I'll go with the popular effects. There's all kinds of effects to choose from. You can experiment with these, but I'm going to turn on digital art, hyperrealism, and layered paper, and just run with those. Now, at this point, I would just click Generate once again in order to let her rip. And you can see that we're getting very different effects this time around. Once again, I can tour my variations if I want to, just by clicking on these arrows. My favorite thing about this, though, I'll just go back to this guy because I thought he was really cool, is I still have my smart adjustments applied. So this is without the smart adjustments, this is with. So obviously, this image is benefiting. I think it's obvious anyway. And now let's say you want a reference image, one of those other new features inside Photoshop Beta 25.9, then just click on this guy right here, edit your reference image, and then you can either load an image, we already saw how that worked, or you can select one that's available to you in advance. I'm trying to find it. It's right down here someplace. There it is, the hearts. I like these. Don't click replace image. There isn't really like an OK button, go or whatever. Instead, you just click generate again in order to once again try out the effect. Or effects plural, really. And now we've got some amazing, very wicked, cool stuff to work with. And if I wanted to, if I decided the car is facing the wrong direction, that's fine, because you can apply non-destructive transformations. So I just hit Control-T, Command-T on the Mac. Bit this warning, fine, I don't care. That's just turning off the adjustments for a second. And now I'm going to flip this guy. That's all I want to do, flip him horizontally, and then press the Enter key in order to apply that change. And so I think we can agree it's not perfect, but it's awfully darn close. So what do you think? 7 actually significant new features. Which ones do you like? Not the adjustment brush. And don't forget, for even more what you can do and junk like that in Adobe Firefly, join me at patreon.com/DeekNow. And then go to Deek.com and sign up for my much better written newsletter. Not to mention right here at YouTube. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I'm Deke McClellan. This is Deek Now.